The Great Hall of Axiom Prime had never held so many different alien species at once. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their special chairs, each designed for their unique body shapes. The air was thick with different breathing gases and the sound of dozens of translation devices working at once. Ambassador Zethkar of the Vrex Collective raised his forearms to get attention. His blue skin looked darker under the bright lights. "We must discuss the human problem," he said in his deep voice. "They are spreading too fast across our space." Murmurs filled the hall. Some aliens nodded their various heads in agreement. Others made sounds of worry through their breathing holes or vocal sacs. "In just 50 Earth years they have taken over 12 star systems," continued Ambassador Threx from the Keelan Empire. Her insect-like body clicked as she spoke. "Systems that we had fought over for centuries." The tall, gray-skinned delegate from Zerion Prime stood up slowly. "The humans are different from us," he said. "They do not follow the old rules of war. They sacrifice their own ships to win battles. They build bigger weapons when we build better shields." More worried sounds came from the crowd. Everyone had heard the stories. Human ships that would not retreat even when they were clearly losing. Human soldiers who would fight until the last one fell. It was not normal behavior for civilized species. "What do you suggest we do?" asked the water-breathing representative from Aqua 7 through her translator bubble. "They have not broken any galactic laws." "Not yet," said Zethkar. "But their growth must be controlled before they become too powerful." The debate continued for hours. Some wanted to limit human trade. Others suggested blocking their access to certain technologies. A few even talked about military action, though quietly. Suddenly, every screen in the hall flashed red. Warning alarms started ringing. The voice of the station's computer filled the air. Massive gravitational disturbance detected at system edge. All ships prepare for possible threat. The aliens looked at each other with confusion and fear. Gravitational disturbances this big usually meant only one thing. Something very large was coming out of hyperspace. On the main viewing screen, space itself seemed to twist and bend. A dark spot appeared, growing larger and larger. Energy crackled around the edges as reality stretched like rubber. Then it happened. The largest ship any of them had ever seen pushed through the hole in space. It was not elegant like Vrex vessels or smooth like Keelan designs. It was brutal and angular, all hard edges and sharp points. Massive gun barrels stuck out from every surface. The hull was dark gray, almost black, with strange markings that hurt to look at. "By the old gods," whispered someone in the crowd. The ship kept coming, and coming, and coming. It seemed to go on forever. A metal mountain floating in space. The computer tried to measure it, but the numbers seemed impossible. 12.7 kilometers long, the station computer announced. Mass approximately 400 million tons. Unknown configuration. Design does not match any known species. But they all knew what it was. The humans had finally done it. They had built something that made every other warship look like a toy. The communications officer, a nervous Pequin with feathers that changed color with his emotions, was now bright yellow with fear. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission. It is coming from the large vessel." "Put it through," ordered Station Commander Vexon, trying to keep his voice steady. The screen changed to show a human woman in a dark blue uniform. She had short gray hair and calm eyes that seemed to look right through the camera at each alien in the room. Behind her, they could see the bridge of the massive ship, larger than most space stations, filled with hundreds of human crew members working at control panels. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Council," the human said. Her voice was clear and strong. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation Navy. This is the TFS Terran Dominion." She paused, letting the name sink in. Some aliens had heard rumors of human shipbuilding projects, but nothing like this. The Terran Federation formally requests an audience with the Galactic Council to discuss matters of mutual interest. Admiral Chen continued. "We believe it is time for a new understanding between our peoples." The hall was completely silent. Even the translation devices seemed to have stopped working from shock. Admiral Chen waited for a response that did not come. "We will remain at the edge of your system and await your decision. We have come in peace, but we have also come prepared." The transmission ended. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Ambassador Zethkar slowly turned to look at the other delegates. His blue skin had gone almost white. "How big did the computer say that ship was?" he asked. 12.7 kilometers, repeated the Pequin communications officer, his feathers now a sickly green color. That is bigger than some of our space stations, whispered Ambassador Threx. It is bigger than some of our moons, corrected the Zerion delegate. On the viewing screen, the massive human ship hung in space like a dark threat. Its weapon ports were closed, but everyone could see them. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. The ship bristled with guns like a metal porcupine. What kind of civilization builds something like that? Asked the representative from the peaceful Harmony worlds. The kind that is tired of being treated like children, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see who had spoken. In the back of the hall sat the human observer, a position the humans had been granted just 2 years ago. He was a small man with kind eyes, but now those eyes looked different, harder. Ambassador Martinez, said Commander Vexon. Did you know about this ship? The human ambassador stood up slowly. I knew humanity was building new vessels, he said. I did not know they were quite this impressive. But his slight smile suggested he was not as surprised as he claimed to be. This changes everything, said Zethkar. No single ship should have that much firepower. Perhaps, said Ambassador Martinez. But humans have a saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. We have been preparing for a very long time. The aliens looked at each other with growing fear. They had spent so much time debating how to control humanity that they had forgotten humans might be preparing their own solutions. What does your admiral want to discuss? Asked Commander Vexon. I believe she wants to discuss the future, Martinez replied. The future of human expansion. The future of galactic politics. The future of who makes the rules out here among the stars. As if responding to his words, more warning alarms began to sound. The communications officer was frantically checking his instruments. Commander, he said, his voice shaking, I am detecting more gravitational disturbances. Multiple contacts, all of them large. On the viewing screen, new dark spots began appearing across the system, more holes in space, more twisted reality. The aliens watched in growing horror as the implications became clear. The massive ship floating before them was not alone. Humanity had not just built one impossible vessel, they had built a fleet of them. Admiral Chen's calm face appeared on the screen again. We are prepared to begin discussions at your convenience, she said. But I should mention, we would prefer not to keep our escort waiting too long. They have other appointments to keep. The transmission ended again, leaving the Galactic Council to stare at the approaching fleet of impossibly large human warships. The age of treating humanity as a minor power had just come to an end. The emergency session of the Galactic Council's Military Analysis Committee had been going for 6 hours. Every major power in the galaxy had sent their best ship designers and weapons experts to figure out what humanity had just shown them. General Krixtos of the Vrex military slammed his hand on the metal table. These readings cannot be correct, he growled. No ship can carry this much firepower and still move. The holographic display in the center of the room showed a detailed scan of the human vessel. Red dots marked weapon systems. There were so many red dots that the ship looked like it had a disease. The scans are correct, said Dr. Veltar, the galaxy's leading expert on spaceship design. Her 6 eyes studied the data from different angles. I have checked them 17 times. This ship has over 40,000 weapon systems. Silence filled the room. Even the most powerful alien warships only had a few hundred weapons. That is more guns than our entire fleet, whispered Admiral Nexvor from the Keelan Empire. It is more guns than 3 of our fleets, corrected General Krixtos, the Syrian representative, a tall being with crystal-like skin, touched the hologram with one finger. The image rotated, showing the ship's massive engine section. Look at the power systems, he said. They are using some kind of controlled fusion reaction. But the scale, it is like they put a small star inside their ship. Dr. Veltar nodded sadly. The humans have always been different. While we spent centuries making our ships more efficient, they focused on making them more powerful. While we tried to use less energy, they found ways to generate more energy. But why? Asked Commander Thexri from the peaceful trading worlds. Why build something so large? So destructive? The answer came from an unexpected source. Fleet Admiral Zondar, the oldest military officer in the room, had been quiet until now. His ancient species had fought wars for thousands of years before most others had even discovered spaceflight. Because they can, he said simply. Look at their history. Humans do not do things halfway. When they discovered fire, they burned down forests. When they learned to build, they built cities that touched the sky. When they reached space, they did not just visit other worlds, they moved their entire populations to them. He stood up slowly, his old joints creaking. Every species in this galaxy follows the same pattern. We build what we need, nothing more. We fight until victory is achieved, then stop. We expand until we have enough space, then we pause. And humans? Asked Dr. Veltar, though she already knew the answer. Humans build until they cannot build anymore. They fight until their enemies surrender completely. They expand until they run out of galaxy. Admiral Zondar pointed at the hologram. This ship is not just a weapon. It is a statement. It says we are not like you. The room fell silent again as the implications sank in. They had all seen human behavior in smaller conflicts. Human ships that would ram enemy vessels when they ran out of ammunition. Human soldiers who would fight with broken weapons rather than surrender. Human colonies that would rather die than abandon their homes. The power requirements alone should make this impossible, said the Keelan engineer, trying to find some flaw in the design. How do they feed energy to so many weapons? Dr. Veltar brought up another display. They do not use our distribution methods. Look at this. The hologram showed the ship's internal structure.
They have built multiple power cores throughout the vessel.
If one section is damaged, the others continue working. If they lose half the ship, the other half can still fight. Wasteful, muttered General Krixtos. Inefficient. Effective, corrected Admiral Zondar. A wreck ship loses its main power core, the ship dies. A Keelan vessel loses its command center, the crew cannot coordinate. This human ship, you would have to destroy most of it before it stops fighting. The Zerian representative was studying the weapon systems. These are not like our weapons either. We build precise energy beams that cut through armor. Elegant particle cannons that disable systems without destroying the whole ship. And the humans? Asked Commander Thexri. The humans built guns that throw chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Missile launchers that fire explosive warheads. Beam weapons designed to melt entire sections of enemy ships. He paused, looking disturbed. Nothing precise. Nothing elegant. Everything designed for maximum destruction. Dr. Veltar brought up tactical analysis. But this is what makes them so dangerous. Our weapons are designed to disable enemy ships so we can capture them. Human weapons are designed to make sure the enemy never fights again. Different philosophies, said Admiral Zondar. We fight to win. Humans fight to end the fight permanently. A junior officer from the Harmony Worlds raised a tentative hand. Could we build ships like this? If we worked together? The question hung in the air like a bad smell. Every expert in the room knew the answer, but nobody wanted to say it. Finally, Dr. Veltar spoke. Technically, yes. We have the knowledge. We have the resources, but we would never agree on the design, finished General Krixtos. The Vrex would want better armor. The Keelan would want faster engines. The Zerian would want more elegant weapons. We would spend decades arguing about every detail. And the humans? Asked the Harmony Worlds officer. The humans said build the biggest, most dangerous ship possible, and then they built it, said Admiral Zondar. No committees. No debates about efficiency. No arguments about cost. They just built what they needed to never lose another war. A new display showed intelligence reports from human space. More ship construction, massive orbital shipyards, resource gathering on a scale that dwarfed anything the galaxy had seen. How many ships like this do they have? Asked Commander Thexri. Dr. Veltar checked her data. Intelligence suggests at least 12, possibly more. And they are still building. The room erupted in shocked voices. 12 ships like this could challenge the combined fleets of half the galaxy. But the resources, protested the Keelan engineer. Building even one ship this size should have bankrupted their entire civilization. Unless they planned for it, said Admiral Zondar quietly. Look at their expansion pattern. Every system they took had asteroid belts, mining worlds, gas giants for fuel. They were not just expanding for living space. They were gathering materials. The truth hit the room like a physical blow. While the aliens had been worried about human military aggression, the humans had been quietly building the infrastructure needed to create these massive vessels. They played the long game, whispered Dr. Veltar. For 50 years, they let us think they were just lucky or reckless. Meanwhile, they were preparing for this moment. General Krixtos stood up abruptly. We need to inform our governments immediately. If the humans have this many ships, If the humans have this many ships, then the balance of power in the galaxy has already shifted, interrupted Admiral Zondar. The question is not how to stop them. The question is how to survive in a galaxy where humanity is no longer the weak newcomer. A communication alert sounded. The human vessel was requesting another audience with the Council. Admiral Chen wanted to begin formal negotiations. As the military experts filed out to brief their leaders, Dr. Veltar remained behind, staring at the holographic display of the massive human ship. Her scientific mind was still trying to understand how they had built something so large, so powerful, so far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. But her survival instincts were already giving her the answer that mattered most. They had built it because they could, and because they knew someday they would need it. That day had arrived. The Galactic Intelligence Archive was the most secure facility in known space. Deep beneath the surface of Axiom Prime, thousands of data cores stored the secrets of every major civilization. Today, Director Yexlan was pulling files that most beings were never meant to see. "Show me everything we have on human military behavior," she ordered the archive computer. "Start from first contact." The holographic display came to life, showing grainy footage from 47 years ago. A small human ship, barely bigger than a shuttle, approaching a Vrex patrol vessel. The humans had been trying to make peaceful contact. They had no idea they were entering a war zone. "First combat engagement, Vrex Sector 7, announced the computer. "Human vessel Friendship encounters Vrex destroyer Death's Edge during territorial patrol." Director Yexlan watched the old footage with new eyes. At the time, everyone had thought it was funny. The tiny human ship trying to communicate with a full military destroyer. The Vrex captain had been amused enough to let them try. Then pirates had attacked. What happened next had confused military analysts for decades. The human ship, completely outgunned and outmatched, had not run away. Instead, it had positioned itself between the pirates and the Vrex destroyer. When its weapons failed, the human pilot had rammed his ship directly into the largest pirate vessel. "Computer, what was the Vrex captain's official report?" Captain Thexfor reported, "Human behavior illogical but effective. Recommend further study of human tactical methods." Director Yexlan moved to the next file. "Show me the Keelan border incident." New footage appeared. This time it was a proper human warship, part of their early fleet. Still small by current standards, but properly armed. The humans had been exploring near Keelan space when they encountered a slaver operation. Again, the logical response would have been to report the slavers to the proper authorities. The humans were new to the galaxy. They had no business interfering in established criminal operations. Instead, they had attacked immediately. "Computer, what were the casualties?" "Human ship Defiance destroyed with all hands. Slaver fleet eliminated. 1,200 captives freed from various species." Director Yexlan nodded grimly. Even in defeat, the humans had accomplished their goal. The freed captives had included several prominent Keelan citizens. The incident had forced a major change in anti-slavery laws. "Show me the Zirian mining wars." The display changed to show a barren asteroid field. What had started as a simple territorial dispute had become the first real test of human military doctrine. 3 different alien species had been fighting over mining rights for decades. The humans had been invited as neutral mediators. That had lasted exactly 12 hours. "Computer, explain human escalation pattern during this conflict." Day 1. Humans propose peaceful solution. All parties reject proposal. Day 2. Unknown attackers destroy human diplomatic ship. Day 3. Human battle fleet arrives. Day 7. All hostile forces eliminated or surrendered. But it was not just that the humans had won. It was how they had won. Every alien species had expected traditional warfare. Elegant maneuvers, precise strikes, minimal casualties. The humans had introduced them to the concept of overwhelming firepower. "Show me the battle recordings from Day 4. The footage was brutal. Human ships had not tried to disable their enemies. They had simply destroyed them as quickly as possible. When alien commanders had tried to surrender, the humans had accepted, but only after the alien ships had dumped all weapons and shields. "No half measures," whispered Director Yexlan. It was becoming a pattern. She pulled up the intelligence reports from that time. Every major power had been watching the mining wars carefully. The consensus had been that humans were effective but wasteful. They used too much ammunition. They built too many ships. They accepted too many casualties. Computer, what was the final strategic assessment? Quote, human forces effective in short-term conflicts. Limited industrial base and poor resource management suggest they will not be able to sustain long-term military operations. Director Yexlan laughed bitterly. That assessment had been completely wrong. The humans had not been wasteful. They had been testing their limits, learning what worked, preparing for bigger conflicts. Show me the Harmony Worlds rescue operation. This was where everything had changed. The Harmony Worlds were a peaceful coalition of species that had sworn off violence centuries ago. When pirates had taken their entire governing council hostage, they had asked for help from every major power. The galactic response had been typical. Careful planning, precise operations, months of negotiation. The pirates had been enjoying themselves, making increasingly ridiculous demands. Then the humans had arrived. Computer, how long did the rescue operation take? 14 minutes from arrival to completion. 14 minutes. The humans had simply jumped into the system, blasted their way through the pirate defenses and taken the hostages back by force. No negotiation, no careful planning, no concern for diplomatic consequences, but they had saved everyone. Not a single hostage had been harmed. Show me galactic reaction to this event. The intelligence files painted a clear picture. Some species had been horrified by human methods. Others had been impressed by human results. But everyone had started paying attention. Director Yexlan moved through more files. The pattern was always the same. Humans would try diplomacy first, but when that failed, they escalated quickly and completely. They did not fight to win points or gain advantages. They fought to end conflicts permanently. Computer, show me the classified assessment from Admiral Zondar after the Outer Rim campaign. The ancient admiral's report appeared on screen. Director Yexlan had read it before, but now it seemed prophetic. Quote, human military doctrine is fundamentally different from all known species. Where we seek victory, they seek finality. Where we aim to defeat enemies, they aim to eliminate the possibility of future conflict. This makes them extremely dangerous opponents and extremely valuable allies. Recommend immediate diplomatic overtures before they decide we are enemies. But the recommendation had been ignored. Instead, the galaxy's major powers had chosen a different path. They had tried to contain human expansion through trade restrictions and diplomatic pressure. They had formed quiet alliances to limit human access to advanced technologies. They had worked together to make sure humans remained junior partners in galactic affairs. Computer, show me the secret Vrex-Keelan-Zarian agreement from 15 years ago. The document appeared, marked with the highest security classifications. It outlined a plan to gradually isolate humanity economically and militarily. The goal had been to force humans to accept a subordinate role in galactic politics. Show me the implementation results. The computer's response was embarrassing. Every attempt to restrict human trade had failed. Humans had simply found new trading partners or developed their own alternatives. Every effort to limit their technology had pushed them to innovate faster. Every diplomatic pressure had made them more independent. Computer, what was the net effect of containment efforts on human military capability? Human military industrial capacity increased by 400% during containment period. Human research and development accelerated beyond all projections. Human territorial expansion continued at steady rate despite diplomatic pressure. Director Yexlan slumped in her chair. They had not contained humanity. They had motivated humanity to become self-sufficient. Worse, they had motivated humanity to prepare for conflict with the rest of the galaxy. Show me recent intelligence on human ship construction. The new files were terrifying. Massive orbital shipyards around every human world. Asteroid mining operations on an industrial scale never seen before. Entire planets converted to weapons production. And now the Titan-class vessels that dwarfed anything else in space. Computer, how many alien species have ever built ships larger than 5 kilometers? 0 species have successfully constructed vessels exceeding 5 kilometers in length. How many human ships now exceed that length? Current intelligence suggests minimum 12 vessels, maximum estimate 37 vessels. Director Yexlan closed her eyes. The galaxy had spent decades trying to keep humanity weak, and had instead taught them to become strong. Every restriction had been a lesson. Every pressure had been training. Every attempt to limit their growth had shown them what they needed to prepare for. Computer, final question. Based on current force dispositions, Could the combined fleets of the Vrex Keelan and Zarian alliances defeat a single human Titan-class vessel? The computer was silent for a long moment, running calculations. Probability of Allied victory, 12%. Warning. Calculation assumes human vessel fights alone and receives no support. Probability drops to 3% if additional human forces are present. The truth was unavoidable. Humanity had not just built better ships. They had built ships that made the rest of the galaxy's military forces obsolete. And they had done it because the galaxy had given them no choice but to prepare for war. Director Yexelon began transmitting her report to the Galactic Council. They needed to understand what they were facing. This was not the same species that had arrived in a tiny ship called Friendship decades ago. This was what humanity became when they decided they were tired of being the galaxy's junior partners. The main conference room of Axiom Prime had been redesigned for this meeting. Extra atmospheric controls had been installed to accommodate human breathing requirements. The seating arrangement had been changed to put the human delegation at the same level as the alien representatives, instead of in the observer section. Admiral Sarah Chen entered the room with a small team of human officers. She was not wearing full military dress uniform. Instead, she wore a simple dark blue outfit with minimal rank insignia. Her message was clear. She was here for business, not ceremony. The alien delegate studied her carefully. She looked ordinary enough. Middle-aged, average height, graying hair. Nothing about her suggested she commanded the most powerful warship in known space. That somehow made her more frightening, not less. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us," Admiral Chen said as she took her seat. Her voice was calm and professional. "I know our arrival was dramatic, but we felt it was time for a serious conversation about the future." Ambassador Zethkar of the Vrex Collective cleared his throat. "Admiral, your ship's presence here could be seen as an act of aggression. The Galactic Council is a place of peace." "I understand your concern," Chen replied. "But let me ask you something. If you wanted to have a serious conversation with someone who had been ignoring your messages for 15 years, how would you get their attention?" The question hung in the air. Every alien in the room knew what she was referring to. Human diplomatic requests had been filed and forgotten. Human trade proposals had been buried in committee. Human attempts to join major galactic organizations had been quietly blocked. "We have not ignored human communications," protested Ambassador Threx from the Keelan Empire. Admiral Chen smiled, but her eyes remained cold. "Really? Commander Torres, would you please share our communication records?" A younger human officer activated a holographic display. Hundreds of documents appeared. Diplomatic messages, trade requests, membership applications, requests for technology sharing. Each one was marked with dates and status updates. 17 formal requests for Galactic Council membership, Chen read. Status under review for 8 years. 43 trade agreements proposed with various civilizations. Status, 39 rejected, 4 pending for over a decade. 26 requests for access to galactic navigation databases. Status, all denied. She looked up at the alien delegates. And my personal favorite, 14 separate attempts to arrange cultural exchange programs. Denied because humans are too aggressive for cultural interaction. The aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. When listed like this, their treatment of humanity looked petty and discriminatory. "There were legitimate concerns," said the Zerion representative. "Human expansion has been rapid. Your military methods are intense." "Intense," Chen repeated. "Is that what we call it when someone fights to win instead of fighting to look good?" She stood up and walked to the holographic display. With a gesture, she changed the image to show a map of the galaxy. Human territory was marked in blue, a collection of systems scattered across several sectors. "This is human space," she said. 57 star systems containing 112 habitable worlds. We have been good neighbors. We have not attacked anyone who did not attack us first. We have not taken anything that was not freely given or fairly traded for." She touched the display, and the map zoomed out to show the territories of other major powers. The difference was striking. The Vrex Collective controlled over 300 systems. The Keelan Empire had nearly as many. Even minor powers controlled more space than humanity. And yet, Chen continued, we are the ones considered dangerous. We are the ones who need to be contained. Why do you think that is? Nobody answered, but they all knew the reason. It was not about territory or resources. It was about the fact that humans fought differently, won differently, thought differently, Commander Torres, please show them the Blackwater files. The holographic display changed again. This time it showed classified documents, meeting records, secret communications, strategic planning documents, all with the highest security classifications of various alien governments. The room went dead silent. These were documents that should not exist. Documents that proved the galaxy's major powers had been working together to limit human expansion. The Vrex-Keelan Non-Aggression Pact of 2387, Chen read from one document. Section 12, subsection 4. Both parties agree to coordinate policies regarding human territorial expansion to prevent disruption of established trade routes. She moved to another document. Xerion Strategic Planning Committee, Classified Briefing 2389, recommend limiting human access to quantum drive technology to slow expansion rate. More documents appeared. Trade embargoes, technology restrictions, diplomatic agreements designed to isolate humanity. All secret, all coordinated, all aimed at keeping humans weak. You want to know why we built ships like the Terran Dominion? Chen asked, her voice still calm but with an edge of steel. Because we learned that the galaxy was not going to give us a fair chance. You were all working together to make sure we stayed small and helpless. Ambassador Zethkar found his voice. These documents, how did you obtain them? Chen smiled. That is not important. What is important is that they exist. For 20 years you have been treating humanity as a problem to be managed instead of a civilization to be respected. She returned to her seat but remained standing. So let me be clear about why we are here. The Terran Federation is offering the galaxy a choice. The aliens leaned forward despite themselves. This was what they had been afraid of. Option 1, Chen said, raising one finger. The Galactic Council acknowledges humanity as a full member with all the rights and privileges that entails. The secret agreements and restrictions end. Humans are treated as equals in all diplomatic and trade matters. She raised a second finger. Option 2. The current situation continues and humanity acts accordingly. What does that mean? Ask the representative from the Harmony Worlds. Chen gestured toward the viewport where the massive bulk of her ship was visible. It means we stop pretending we need your permission to exist. We expand where we choose. We trade with whom we choose. We defend ourselves however we see fit. That sounds like a threat, said Ambassador Threx. It is a statement of fact, Chen replied. You have spent decades trying to keep us weak. You failed. Now you have to decide whether you want us as partners or as competitors. The Xerion representative stood up suddenly. What about your other ships? Our sensors detected multiple gravitational signatures. For the first time, Admiral Chen's calm mask slipped slightly. She smiled, and it was not a nice smile. I am glad you asked. Commander Torres? The holographic display changed to show a real-time map of the galaxy. Red dots appeared throughout known space. Dozens of them. All marked with the same symbol, the insignia of the Terran Federation Navy. As of this moment, Chen announced, Titan-class vessels are positioned at strategic points throughout the galaxy. They are not threatening anyone. They are simply present. The implications hit the room like a physical blow. Humanity had not just built a few massive ships. They had built enough to project power across the entire galaxy simultaneously. How many? Whispered someone in the back of the room. Enough, Chen said simply. Enough to ensure that humanity is never again in a position where our survival depends on the goodwill of others. The room erupted in angry voices, threats, demands, accusations. Chen waited for the noise to die down before speaking. Again, I want to be very clear, she said. We did not come here to conquer anyone. We came here to end the pretense that you can treat us like children while we pretend to be grateful for it. She activated her communicator. Admiral Chen to all Terran vessels. Stand down to condition yellow. Maintain position but power down active sensors. The gesture was small but significant. She was showing good faith while keeping her ships ready. The choice is yours, she told the assembled delegates. We can work together as equals or we can coexist as competitors. But the days of humanity accepting second-class treatment are over. She gathered her papers and stood to leave. We will remain in the system for 72 hours for your answer. After that, we have other appointments to keep. As the human delegation filed out, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence. Outside the viewports, the massive human warship waited patiently. The galaxy's balance of power had just shifted permanently. The only question now was whether the existing powers would adapt to the new reality or force humanity to impose it on them. 6 months had passed since Admiral Chen's ultimatum at Axiom Prime. The galaxy looked very different now. Director Yexlan stood on the observation deck of the new Terran embassy, watching construction ships work on the expansion. The building was not subtle, a massive structure that could be seen from orbit, built in the efficient angular style that had become humanity's signature. Like everything humans did, it was bigger than necessary and built to last forever. Through the transparent walls, she could see the Terran Dominion hanging in space above the planet. The massive ship had become a permanent fixture in the system, a constant reminder of the new reality. Other alien species had complained about its presence, but their complaints carried less weight now. The door chimed and Admiral Chen entered. She looked relaxed, wearing civilian clothes instead of her military uniform. The change was deliberate. Humanity was making a point about shifting from military posture to diplomatic engagement. "Director Yexlan," Chen said warmly. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, Admiral. Or should I say Ambassador Chen now?" Chen smiled. "Admiral is fine. The Terran Federation decided that our military and diplomatic services should work more closely together. Past experience suggested that purely diplomatic approaches were not always effective." They both knew what she meant. Traditional diplomacy had failed to give humanity equal treatment. Military diplomacy had succeeded in 6 months. "I read your report on galactic reactions to our new arrangements," Chen continued. "Quite thorough." Director Yexlan had indeed been busy. As the galaxy's leading intelligence analyst, she had been tracking how different civilizations were adapting to humanity's rise to power. The results were fascinating and troubling in equal measure. "The Harmony worlds have been the most receptive," she reported. "They see humanity as a stabilizing force. The end of the pirate wars in the Outer Rim has been particularly welcomed. That had been humanity's first major action after the Axiom Prime ultimatum. When word had spread that humans were now full members of the galactic community, several pirate fleets had decided to test their resolve. It had not gone well for the pirates. 3 Titan-class vessels eliminated 17 separate pirate operations in less than a month. Director Yexlan continued. "No survivors. No negotiations. The Outer Rim is now the safest it has been in over a century." Chen nodded approvingly. "Pirates understand force. They respect nothing else." "The Keelan Empire has been more cautious," Director Yexlan continued. "They are negotiating new trade agreements but maintaining military distance." This was not surprising. The Keelan had spent centuries building their reputation on military precision and technological superiority. The existence of human Titan-class ships challenged both concepts. "And the Vrex Collective?" Director Yexlan paused. "This was the complicated part. Ambassador Zethkar has been replaced. The new government is much more cooperative. They have even requested human assistance with their rebellion problem in the outer territories." Chen raised an eyebrow. The Vrex asking for help was like a proud warrior admitting he needed training. "Interesting development. The rebels were using new tactics," Director Yexlan explained. "Guerrilla warfare, hit-and-run attacks. The Vrex military doctrine was not designed for that kind of conflict, but human doctrine was. Yes, General Morrison's tactical solutions were effective. The rebellion ended within 3 weeks," Chen smiled slightly. "Humans had centuries of experience with irregular warfare, dating back to their pre-space days. What seemed impossible to other species was routine for human forces." "What about the Zirian coalition?" This was where Director Yexlan's report became truly interesting. "They have adapted fastest of all. Zirian trade vessels now request human escort through dangerous sectors. Their research institutions are proposing joint projects with human scientists." "Practical people," Chen observed. "Very practical. They recognized that fighting humans was expensive and dangerous, while working with humans was profitable and safe." Director Yexlan brought up a holographic display showing trade figures. Human space has become the galaxy's fastest-growing economic zone. Trade traffic through human systems has increased by over 300% since the Axiom Prime Agreement. The reasons were obvious. Human space was safe. Human enforcement of trade agreements was absolute. Human justice was swift and final. Pirates, smugglers, and raiders had learned to avoid human territory entirely. But not everyone is happy with the changes. Director Yexlin continued. Chen waited for the bad news. The Talvek hegemony has been building a coalition of smaller powers. They call themselves the Free Galaxy Alliance. Their stated goal is to resist human expansion and preserve traditional galactic values. How many members? 14 systems, mostly minor powers that feel threatened by change. Director Yexlin hesitated. They have been acquiring weapons, building ships. The intelligence suggests they are planning some kind of military action. Chen was quiet for a moment, looking out at her ship. Finally, she asked, what kind of weapons? Mostly conventional. But there are rumors of a special project. Something they think will level the playing field against Titan-class vessels. A planet killer? Chen's voice was calm, but Director Yexlin could hear the steel underneath. Unknown. The project is highly classified. But Admiral Talvek has been making speeches about showing the humans they are not invincible. Chen nodded slowly. She had been expecting something like this. There were always some who preferred to fight rather than adapt. Director, what is your professional assessment of this alliance? Director Yexlin had been dreading this question. They cannot win a conventional war. Even if they combined all their fleets, they would be outnumbered and outgunned by human forces, but desperate people do desperate things. If they are building some kind of superweapon, they might try to use it, not to win, but to hurt humanity badly enough to force a negotiation. Chen stood up and walked to the window. Her ship hung in space like a dark promise, beautiful and terrible at the same time. Director, I want you to understand something about humanity, she said without turning around. We do not negotiate from positions of weakness, ever. If the Free Galaxy Alliance wants to test our resolve, they will discover what every other enemy of humanity has learned. Which is? That we do not fight to win. We fight to end the fight permanently. Director Yexlin felt a chill run down her spine. She had read the reports from the Outer Rim. Human forces had not just defeated the pirates, they had eliminated them so completely that piracy in the region had become extinct. What will you do if they attack? Chen turned back to face her. For a moment, her diplomatic mask slipped, and Director Yexlin saw the military commander underneath. It was not reassuring. We will respond appropriately, Chen said, but I hope they choose differently. The galaxy is big enough for everyone. Humans do not want to rule others. We just want to make sure no one rules us. She paused at the door as she prepared to leave. Director, I have one more question for you. Yes? In your professional opinion, is the galaxy better or worse off with humanity as a major power? Director Yexlin considered the question carefully. Trade is safer. Piracy is down. Wars are ending faster. Smaller civilizations are more protected, she paused. But the balance of power has shifted completely. The old ways of doing things are gone forever. Change is never comfortable, Chen agreed. But sometimes it is necessary. After the Admiral left, Director Yexlin remained at the window, watching the construction ships work on the embassy expansion. Soon, similar structures would exist on every major world in the galaxy. Human presence would be permanent and visible everywhere. She thought about the Free Galaxy Alliance and their desperate plans. They still did not understand what they were facing. Humanity had not just built bigger ships. They had built a new kind of civilization, one that was prepared for any threat and willing to use overwhelming force to protect itself. The galaxy had spent decades trying to keep humanity weak. Now they were discovering what humanity looked like when it decided to be strong. Outside, the Terran Dominion continued its silent watch over the system. It was no longer alone. Other human ships moved through the space lanes, escorting traders, protecting colonists, hunting pirates. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human protection had begun, and for most of the galaxy, that was probably a good thing. For those who chose to fight it, Director Yexlin suspected they would learn the same lesson every other enemy of humanity had learned. Humans did not lose wars. They ended them.